When the president of the Canadian Space Agency called me and officially proclaimed to me that I would be flying on Artemis II. And then sharing that with my wife and 3 kids was also a very special moment for me, watching their excitement as I pursue a dream of mine.
Oh yeah, look at my life, hey now, yeah. Oh yeah, look at my life out here on the road. Hey now.
Hey now. That was Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen getting ready to take off on the voyage of a lifetime. How you doing, friends? Welcome to Scott Fox After 9. I'm going to be honest with you. I am like a kid again today. I am so over the moon, pardon the pun, excited for the crew of the Artemis II mission. Tonight, they are blasting off. I think, as I record now, NASA says it is all systems go. They are go for launch tonight, sometime after 6:24 p.m. The Artemis II rocket is going to take off. It is going to slingshot around the Earth. Then it's going to take off for the moon. And when it gets to the moon, they're going to take some cool pictures. Then they're going to use the moon to slingshot back to Earth. 10 days, start to finish. They're going to travel further into outer space than any humans have ever gone before. And a Canadian is part of this mission. I'm feeling very patriotic today. This is a big thing. This is a mission not just for NASA, not just for the US or for Canada, but for all humanity. Going to the moon, setting up that base on the moon is essential. And today is step 1. Here's Jeremy Hansen.
Jeremy, what can you say about, you're going to be making history here, being the first non-American to leave low Earth orbit. How do you feel, and what can you tell Canada about your feelings?
I feel a lot of things. For sure, I feel a great sense of pride for Canada because I have seen the greatness that we have within the country and the contributions that we are capable of making. And it's fun to see them. It's fulfilling to see them appreciated on the world stage. So a sense of pride in Canada for sure. And also, it is time to continue to evolve our vision as Canadians. What can we continue to do? What can we do next? And that's really exciting to me. I love that we have that Canadian can-do spirit, that what's going to be the next challenge? Yes, I'll be the first Canadian to fly into deep space, but we often say in this crew, the point's not being the first, it's making sure you're not the last. And what's someone going to do? What's Jenny going to do next for Canada, for an example? The other thing I always want to highlight and emphasize in a moment like this, that you must acknowledge the extraordinary U.S. space leadership that creates an environment where we can bring that excellence and demands that excellence. And so that Americans should rightly be proud that they curate collaboration that does this together, because that is an intentional, not a necessary, but an intentional choice to do that. And that's an extraordinary thing that lifts up the entire world to do what Reed was talking about earlier, to all bring our gifts and do some just extraordinary stuff. But it does take a leader, it does take a vision to go do that, and we have that going on. How lucky are we?
Jeremy Hansen is a Canadian. He's from London, Ontario. He went to school in Ingersoll, Ontario. He is a fighter pilot with the Canadian Armed Forces, and as of tonight, officially an astronaut. He is going to be one of the few people that can say he has seen the dark side of the moon. I think this is incredible, and I am sending good luck and Godspeed to this entire crew and everyone at NASA as they get ready for a historic moment. So historic, in fact, there are several world leaders that are planning to address their countries, including President Donald Trump. All of the networks have agreed they are going to cut away from regular programming and televise the president's address from the Oval Office tonight. I think that's incredible, and I think that helps illustrate the gravity, no pun intended, of what we're dealing with today when we return to the moon.
We could not be prouder, of course, of Colonel Jeremy Hansen, who is a currently serving member of the Royal Canadian Air Force, and really just an example of what military training and a career in the Canadian Armed Forces can actually lead to. So he's very inspiring, and his professionalism and his leadership. It's just a real pleasure to see his hard work pay off in this way.
What message would you have for Jeremy?
Just how proud we are of him, and just that we are all supporting him.
And we actually just saw him.
We did.
So
we just came
just
from
told him
visiting.
that.
Yes, we did.
So we're with the crew, and so we talked to all of them. We also talked to Dr. Gibbons, who, as you know, is Canada's reserve astronaut. She's going to do lunar Capcom for the very first time. So we have a lot of Canadian talent here at ready to go on Cape Canaveral.
Pretty amazing stuff. That was the Canadian Space Agency President, Lisa Campbell, along with Royal Canadian Air Force Lieutenant General Jamie Spicer Blanchette. A proud moment for Canada and the Canadian Space Agency. It's awesome that Jeremy is going to get to have this experience today. And again, good luck and Godspeed to them. The launch, 6/24. It's going to be televised. You'll be able to see it just about everywhere. And I am excited to watch. Friends, because of that, I'm going to keep the rest of the pod fairly concise today, but there's something I think we should talk about, and it's a topic that hasn't really gotten a whole lot of discussion, and I think I know why. If you'll recall, just over a year ago, when Justin Trudeau was on his way out the door, he announced a massive new project. He called it a nation-building project. He wanted to build high-speed rail that would connect Quebec City to Toronto. High-speed rail is something that a lot of progressive governments want to build for some reason. I don't fully understand unless the company that builds high-speed rail is somehow connected to all of them, but every government that is left-leaning seems to be really wanting to build high-speed rail. And Justin Trudeau was no different. He announced the project and then bam, he was gone. Well, Mark Carney is left holding the bag, and Mark Carney says he is going to go ahead with the ALTO high-speed rail line. The thing is, it's going to take forever to build it. It is going to be insanely expensive, and they've got to expropriate a whole ton of land to install this ALTO high-speed rail. Yesterday, Pierre at a news conference, I believe in the Peterborough area, announced that if he's elected prime minister, he is going to cancel this, checks notes, $90 billion project. Here's the leader of the opposition.
The $90 billion ALTO project is another example of a ridiculous pie-in-the-sky liberal spending initiative that only got worse under Prime Minister Carney. The Carney Liberals are forcing every family in Canada to spend 8,000 tax dollars on a project that two-thirds say they will never use. If it ever, and by the way, that's $8,000 per family of four, if it stays on budget. And if it ever gets built, the Carney Liberals plan to force families to pay higher taxes every single year into eternity because it is expected to lose money forever. Unlike, for example, air travel, which makes money. In fact, the losses are expected to be twice as high as VIA loses every year right now. As for Carney's promise to build at speeds not seen in generations, ALTO's CEO confirmed that the real construction won't begin until the year 2030, a year later than the Liberals originally announced in December. Just to be clear, in the last 3 months, they've already backed up the construction start date by a year. So without even getting a shovel in the ground, they're already missing their own deadlines. Once construction does start, it will take 7 years to build just the short leg from Ottawa to Montreal. In other words, even if the Liberals keep their promise, no one will set foot on this train until the year 2037, 11 years from now. By comparison, do you know how long it took to build the Canadian Pacific Railway that united our entire country from concept to completion? 4 years. So we built the Canadian Pacific Railway over a century ago in less than half the time that Liberals promise it will take to build this $90 billion monstrosity. Carney Liberals will confiscate farmland and private property, disrupting communities and harming the quality of life of local residents who will not even get to use the train because it won't have any stops near their homes. Canadians have seen this movie before. In 1969, the Liberal government expropriated 100,000 acres of farmland to build the Mirabel Airport right along the Montreal-Ottawa corridor. They displaced 12,000 people. In the end, the government only used 5,000 of the 100,000 acres they confiscated, and passenger flights stopped 20 years ago. Can you imagine that? They kicked 12,000 people out of their homes. They ruined 100,000 acres of land. They only used 5% of the land, and now they're not even running flights. And now they want us to repeat the entire boondoggle over again.
By the way, all of that is true from Pierre Poilievre. Let me summarize here. Justin Trudeau announces we're building high-speed rail. Well, it's already delayed, and we haven't even laid a single meter of track. We've already spent $700 million on this project. $700 million. And not a single meter of track is laid. No one is going to set foot on this thing, not even on the short run between Ottawa and Montreal until 2037. By the time you can go from Ottawa to Quebec City, it'll be at least 2040. The full line, God knows when that'll be done to connect Quebec City to Toronto. $90 billion, they say, to build it, but we all understand how these projects go over budget. It happens all the time. $90 billion, and it's going to lose money, so the taxpayers will every year be subsidizing it. It works out to $4,000 per taxpayer in Canada that's paying for the ALTO high-speed rail line, even though it's only through Quebec and Ontario. Every single taxpayer will pay $4,000 as their contribution towards this. And the question is, why do we need it? We have flight options. We have Via Rail. Why would we spend $90 billion to save a couple of hours? This seems like a handout to somebody, doesn't it? Why else would we do that? I mean, let's be honest. Pierre is right. We built the Canada Pacific Railway in 4 years. 4 years to unite the entire country by rail. This is going to take until 2037, 11 years from now, just to get from Ottawa to Montreal. Pierre says, no, we've got better things to do with our money. We are not spending $90 billion on this high-speed rail line. Not right now, anyway. Now let's get to some of the Q&A. Lots of good questions for Pierre yesterday on a wide variety of topics.
Harrison Faulkner, Juno News. Last weekend at the NDP convention, we saw the use of equity cards to determine speaking order based on skin color, the flying of the Palestinian and Venezuelan flags on stage, and frequent breakdown and debate over misgendering and pronouns. What's your reaction, sir, to the NDP becoming the subject of international mockery?
Well, this has been the approach of the Liberals and the NDP for the last 10 years. Both Liberals and NDP have taken on this approach that is completely out of line with everyday Canadians. The Canadian people want us to focus on their common sense priorities, making the country affordable, safe, and strong. Everything else is a distraction from that.
Okay, I'm going to do something different today because yesterday Pierre Poilievre and the Prime Minister did news conferences. I'm going to go back and forth. I just did a question for Pierre Poilievre about the NDP leadership convention. Now let's go to a question that the Prime Minister was asked in Quebec.
Prime Minister Stephanie Levitz, The Globe and Mail. I'm wondering, do you still intend to fulfill the Liberal government's promise to get daycare fees down to $10 a day on average nationwide? And if so, by when?
First off, we are standing foursquare behind the importance of affordable national daycare. It is a shared responsibility with the provinces. We work with the provinces in order to do that. So it's an answer that's provided jointly with the provinces. It's a shared jurisdiction, a shared fulfillment of that.
They say without more money from you, it's not possible. Is that goal dead? It's
a series of negotiations and discussions, and they're ongoing. And we're in a position where hundreds and hundreds of thousands of families are saving because of the child care program. Saving, and it depends on the province, but saving anywhere from the high single-digit $1,000s a year to $25,000, $30,000 a year in childcare fees.
Okay, the Prime Minister not committing to continue on with national childcare, or the program that we have now. They call it $10 a day childcare, although very, very, very few people are actually paying $10 a day. And I know there's a lot of parents who find that to be a bit of a contentious issue. They were promised $10 a day, but they don't say much because it's still a lot cheaper than it was. So the Prime Minister non-committal there. Now let's go back to Pierre Poilievre.
You think the NDP is still a party for blue-collar working Canadians?
No. The NDP, just like the Liberals, wants to block resource projects, ban hunting rifles, tax fuel, stop people from driving pickup trucks. The Liberals and NDP have an anti-rural, anti-working class agenda. Over the last 10 years of NDP Liberal policies, we've seen the working class completely screwed over, unable to buy homes, unable to afford fuel and food, confiscated of their legitimate hunting rifles and their way of life. Only Conservatives will stand up for the hardworking people who build this country. We will ensure you can drive your pickup truck, you can put fuel in it, you can afford food for your family, that you're safe on your streets, that you have the right to defend yourself on your property, and that the good, solid, traditional Canadian values that built this country will do so again. Thank you.
Okay, good answer there from Pierre, drawing a distinction between the NDP and the Conservatives. Pierre saying Conservatives are the party of the middle class. NDP, they're too far aligned with the Liberals. Kind of hard to argue because we haven't seen what the new leader, Avi Lewis, is going to do, but we definitely saw what Jagmeet Singh did.
Prime Minister, do you agree with the 2021 House of Commons vote that China's persecution of Uyghurs is a genocide?
Look, there are fundamental issues in terms of China's treatment of the Uyghurs in the past, and they've been rightly called out.
Do you agree that it's ongoing?
That it's ongoing. There are serious issues that remain, which is why I've raised human rights issues with my Chinese counterparts in our engagement, and it's why it's essential in our dealings with China and commercial dealings with China that we have transparency in terms of where goods come from, the treatment of those workers, and that they fully meet our standards in terms of child labor, slave labor, human rights.
He just won't do it. He just will not call out China. He refuses. It's like he got told by the boss, you are not going to talk about that. And he is trying every which way to avoid answering that question. He still will not say if he agrees with a motion that the Liberals under Trudeau did support, that China is committing genocide against the Uyghurs. Why on earth will the Prime Minister not commit to that? Our foreign policy has not changed. Only the Prime Minister has. So what's going on here, and why will the Prime Minister not stand up for a long-held Canadian belief, truth, and value? Back to Pierre Poilievre.
We saw recently, just last week, that the Liberal-packed Senate passed Bill C-15 that made sweeping changes to the Expropriation Act, allowing their high-speed rail mega project to go through and take properties just like the one that we're standing on here today. How do you plan to fight this rigged racket, in addition to calling for the cancellation of ALTO altogether, but to reform back checks and balances in place so that people's private property cannot be seized under what many are calling this liberal land grab?
That's a good way of putting it. It is a liberal land grab. Your private property is not safe under this Liberal government. We have seen that with the decision by the Liberal government to refuse to defend private property rights in the Cowichan lawsuit in the West. The Liberal government made a decision to withdraw the argument of private property rights from that lawsuit, and as a result, we saw a ruling that now potentially jeopardizes the private property of tens of thousands of British Columbians and maybe worse. We now see Mark Carney and the Liberals threatening to confiscate the private property of thousands of families along the corridor of this $90 billion ALTO monstrosity. Your property is not safe under this Liberal government. Conservatives will reinstate your right to have your property. We will stop the confiscations. Property rights are human rights.
I'm really curious about how that would work. I mean, I agree with what he's saying. Yes, we do have private property. It's ours. And no, the government can't just take it. But there are certain scenarios where the government needs to, quote unquote, expropriate land because they need it for something. But is the government always truthful and honest about whether or not they need property? I would think expropriation should be an absolute worst case scenario, last card in the deck. That's the last thing, the last resort that they should go to. But they seem to just willy-nilly take these things. He also mentioned the indigenous land rights claim that is so controversial out in British Columbia. He's right about that. If you didn't fully hear what Pierre said there, rewind it and listen again. There's a lot of people in British Columbia who bought homes. They own their home. They own their property. But now it's in doubt about whether or not they do and whether or not First Nations now have some sort of a title claim to those people's land. There's a lot of weird things when it comes to property rights happening in Canada now, and it doesn't get a whole lot of attention. Let's go back to the Prime Minister.
Can you repeat that in English, please, sir, on Lebanon, just the government?
It's an illegal invasion of Lebanon. It's a violation of their territorial sovereignty, integrity, and sovereignty. And the point I was making as well, from a practical perspective, the government of Lebanon has banned Hezbollah. It's taking action. It's trying to take action against Hezbollah and their terrorist activities and their threats to Israel, and that is the purported justification for this invasion. So we condemn it.
I don't that's one where the Prime Minister has lost me because I don't understand how he can have that stance. He said that what Israel is doing right now against Hezbollah, those are the terrorists to the north in Lebanon, is an invasion, and it's wrong. He called it out. He said it's wrong. But he also acknowledged that even though Lebanon has banned Hezbollah, Hezbollah is still operating and they're still attacking Israel. So what is Israel supposed to do? Because I thought we all agreed Israel had a right to defend itself. And if rockets are getting launched into Israel from Lebanon by Hezbollah, and the Lebanese government hasn't had any luck getting rid of Hezbollah, don't the Israelis have a right to go in and take it out at the source? I would think they do. That's why I'm a little confused by the Prime Minister's position specifically on Israel and Lebanon right now. What about Hezbollah? They're still operating. They're still firing rockets into Israel. They still want a war. How does Israel defend themselves against that if they can't go into Lebanon and the Lebanese government can't get rid of Hezbollah? Weird. By the way, just so you know, when French does come up, I am going to cut it out of the pod. I guess I won't be eligible to be the CEO of Air Canada. Sorry, everyone. But I don't think that there's that many bilingual people listening right now or that would enjoy hearing these clips in French. If you do want to hear them in French, though, you can go to many different places on YouTube to get those.
Liberal MP and gun control advocate Natalie Provost accusing your party of creating confusion about the gun buyback program and says that that has contributed to the low uptick so far. Do you have a reaction to that?
The Carney Liberals are banning hunting rifles, gopher guns. They're attacking licensed, law-abiding, trained and tested farmers, hunters, and sport shooters, while allowing rampant, repeat violent criminals to come into our country through open borders and to be released from jail within hours of their latest arrests. This liberal approach of attacking farmers, duck hunters, and sport shooters has led to a 100% increase in violent crime during the Liberal decade, while wasting billions of taxpayers' dollars. Our conservative approach is to lock up criminals, secure our borders, and leave our hunters, sport shooters, and farmers to live their lives lawfully and peacefully.
I don't think that there's any gray area there. I don't think we really even need to draw a comparison. It's very, very clear how the Liberals feel about the gun buyback program. They are doubling down on it. They're going to spend whatever they have to spend on it. They are going to continue the gun buyback program. Pierre Poilievre says he wants to scrap it. He says it's going after the wrong people, and the money we spent on the gun buyback program could be better used trying to keep actual dangerous guns, the handguns and the automatics that are coming over the border, to get those off the streets and to arrest the people who are using them. Very, very stark contrast here. If gun control is an issue for you, you now know how everybody feels. Back to the Prime Minister.
Hi, Prime Minister. Jordan Gowling, National Post. The deadline for agreements on carbon pricing in the Pathways project through your government's MOU with Alberta is tomorrow. Are you on track to meet that deadline? Given Premier Smith's comments in Houston last week, she said there might be a delay.
Well, I'd say a couple of things. One, and Premier Smith and I had, with colleagues, a very constructive conversation yesterday afternoon. So we're continuing to move forward. I'd note that we have made a series of progress. The cooperation agreement that was signed and announced a couple of weeks ago, the agreement on methane, which was announced last week. We're continuing to move forward, so there's a lot of momentum. Will we perfectly make Premier Smith's birthday? And I'd like to take this opportunity to wish the Premier of Alberta happy birthday tomorrow. And everyone who would like to send cards, please do. And I know she's thrilled about this announcement as well. But will we perfectly meet the first? Not necessarily, but do we have momentum? We're making progress? Yes. We'll get the right agreement at the right time, but I anticipate soon.
What? What? I don't really know what he's talking about. One thing that stood out, though, for me, though, was, again, he referenced methane. For those who don't know, for a very, very, very long time, the government of Canada wanted to impose a carbon tax because they wanted to tax the amount of carbon we were putting in the air. Well, the Canadian people, after a long time of paying, finally started to wise up and realize CO2 is not a uniquely Canadian problem. It's not. And you know what? It's debatable, the science around carbon specifically. So now, realizing that they've lost the room, now the Liberals in Canada and left-leaning governments around the world are trying to pivot to now make methane the new gas that we've got to go after. Methane is something that is produced by cows when they're flatulent. That's part of the assault on cows and on beef. They don't want it because cows produce too much methane. They're going to try and go after methane the same way they went after CO2. And the only difference is people gave up on CO2. They started to say this isn't a big deal, and they moved on from the climate change ideology. Well, now the climate change people want to keep it going, so now they're going to make methane the new bad guy. Just keep an ear out for it because it's going to come up a lot in the coming years.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
What do you think about the possibility of the federal government proroguing Parliament following April 13th by-election?
I think it's time for the Carney Liberals to get to work. You know, they've been in power for 11 years, including a year with Mr. Carney there, and what have they done? No pipelines approved, no major projects approved. The deficit is doubled. We have the worst food price inflation in the G7, the worst housing costs in the G7, the worst household debt in the G7, the second highest unemployment in the G7, and yet Mr. Carney barely even shows up for question period a third of the time, the lowest turnout rate of any prime minister in the last decade and a half. It's time for him to stop the illusions and start getting the results that he promised in people's everyday lives. Affordable at home, safe at home, strong at home.
That is a legitimate thing. There's a lot of people who feel that if Mark Carney is successful in the 3 upcoming by-elections, he's going to prorogue Parliament. A lot of people feel he's aiming for a September election. He's not going to be happy with the thin majority that he will have if he wins all 3 by-elections. He wants a solid majority, so he's going to come and ask for a mandate. He's going to ask for 4 more years with a majority government that cannot be taken down with a confidence vote. That's what he wants to do. Prorogation later this month in April. Election in September or October. That's the way a lot of people see this going. I'm not 100% convinced on that timing, but the Prime Minister is certainly, he's not denying that that's what he's doing. He wants to try and seize power. And right now, if you believe the polls that are out there, it indicates that he would win a strong majority mandate. We'll see. I almost kind of dare him to do it, because once an election is called and people have an actual choice to make, sometimes those polls can be proven to be not very reliable. By the way, I really like going back and forth between the two of them. I like that they had competing news conferences, and I can alternate between Pierre Poilievre and between Mark Carney. Let's go to another one for the Prime Minister.
Hi, Prime Minister. Tom Perry with CBC. Today's the deadline for gun owners to make their declaration as part of the federal buyback program. Public safety says I think it's about 57,000 guns have been declared, but you budgeted for up to 136,000. So I'm wondering, what do you think about the uptake? And are you worried that, given it isn't as high as what you budgeted for, that there's still going to be a lot of prohibited weapons out there?
Well, first off, I'd like to salute those who've worked on making this possible, and those who've gun owners who've brought forward their weapons for compensation. We'll evaluate the full program and next steps. There's time between now and when the law fully takes effect later in the fall.
But are you what do you think about the uptake, though? I mean, is it as high as you want? It's not as high as you want it to be.
Well, it's not as high as as the estimates of the numbers of by definition. I mean, your figures are. I have the same understanding of the broad figures, so there's obviously a gap there.
But he didn't actually say what he thought of it. It's very low uptick. Canadians, by and large, are rejecting this gun buyback. And it's not just Canadians. The police are rejecting it. They're saying in forces across the country, they don't want to participate in this. We wasted a lot of money. And did we make our streets any safer? Did we? Or did we just piss away a ton of taxpayer money?
Hi there, this is Mark Woodhouse with Global News. I've got a question here. The Prime Minister today said there are fundamental issues in terms of China's treatment of the Uyghurs in the past. And when asked if he agrees with the 2021 House of Commons vote that China's persecution of Uyghurs is a genocide, what do you make of that response?
Can you just repeat the last part? I didn't catch that.
Let me just pull it. When asked if he agrees with the 2021 House of Commons vote that China's persecution of Uyghurs is a genocide, the Prime Minister today said that there are fundamental issues in terms of China's treatment of the Uyghurs in the past. And what's your take on that?
Wow. So he couldn't even agree with the motion that the Liberals adopted. Wow. So it looks like the Davos speech was all a big illusion. Remember, he said he was going to put his values ahead of superpowers and authoritarian regimes. Well, now he is showing that he will not put his values forward. Rather, he will pander to a foreign hostile dictatorship on issues of slavery and genocide. If Mr. Carney does not have the courage to stand up against slavery and genocide, what does he have the courage to do? How can he be trusted to stand up for Canada?
That was a pretty powerful moment there from Pierre Poilievre. You could tell that he had not seen the Prime Minister's news conference. He was learning that information from the reporter in real time, and he was shocked. This is something that our Parliament agreed on under a Liberal government with Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister. Mark Carney doesn't necessarily support that because Mark Carney's not allowed to make the Chinese regime look bad. He's been told, do not embarrass us. And he's sticking to his word. He's not doing it. But there's a lot of people wondering, how much control does Beijing already have over the Canadian government? Let's go back to the Prime Minister.
Abigail Beeman, CTV News. Are you considering cutting the federal gas tax to help Canadians at the pump? And at the same time, if you get a majority government in 10 days, are you considering proroguing Parliament, which may get in the way of any potential legislation?
Okay. I'm going to answer the second one first. Absolutely not. It has never even entered my thinking, the possibility of that. So I couldn't have been more surprised to see a suggestion that was under consideration. Alors, en français, c'est aucune chance. But no, we are En français, le gouvernement travaille avec le Parlement. Nous sommes we are absolutely focused on working with Parliament, getting legislation through Parliament, adjusting legislation where it needs to be, where it's better informed by the discussions in Parliament, where we have to make compromises in order to do it. And we've shown that. We've shown that consistently. And I think what we've seen, certainly in the last 2 months, is the real progress that we're making across a range of bills in crime, the Budget Implementation Act, other aspects. So there's no question of that. And I've already forgotten the first part of your question, Abigail, so sorry.
Gas. You said a few days ago that you are following it closely.
Yeah, we are following it, yes, Abigail, we're following it closely. And, we, in the context of fiscal realities, other measures we've taken to improve affordability, the persistence of the potential oil price, the higher gas price. So we have to take all of that into account, and we'll have a fiscal event in the spring with the spring update, and that would be the right time to fully answer that question.
What is a fiscal event? Because most of the time in April, we get a budget. And last year we didn't. The Prime Minister, very emphatic that he's not going to prorogue the House. He said he was shocked at the suggestion. Okay, so far that's the only question he's actually answered. No prorogation after the by-elections on April the 13th. Okay. He said they're making progress in a lot of the bills they're trying to move through the House. Nearest I can tell, they've only passed one. I don't think they're making a whole lot of progress there, and part of that is they don't want to work with the opposition parties who are going to vote down various bills if they don't see some changes made, and the Liberals are not willing to concede on much. The Prime Minister also not committing to doing anything about gas prices. Our government could follow the lead of many other governments around the world that are cutting gas taxes to make gas affordable for their citizens until the situation in Iran gets sorted out. Mark Carney won't even do that. He won't even go along with like-minded countries and say he's going to cut the taxes for a while to bring the prices down for Canadians. And by the way, that summer blend is coming soon. They say that's going to spike the prices again. Let's do one last round of questions for Pierre Poilievre and the Prime Minister.
Hi, my name's Joelle. I work for the Peterborough Examiner.
Hi there.
A little earlier you mentioned that it's been projected that this won't be a money-making project. I haven't heard anyone talk about how much it will cost to take the train. Could you comment on that a little bit?
Good question. We know nothing's free. I mean, if it costs $90 billion to build it, and then it loses $2 billion a year every year after that, then somebody's going to have to pay for it. So either you're going to have to be a very wealthy passenger who can afford the costly ticket, or you're going to be one of the poor taxpayers who will never get on the train but will be forced to pay thousands of dollars in higher taxes to fund it. So other than a tiny group of liberal lobbyists, consultants, lawyers, bureaucrats, and other insiders, everyone's going to be worse off.
Okay, Pierre Poilievre wrapping it up with an answer to a question about ALTO. How much is it going to cost to take this thing? I mean, if they're going to cost it at their cost of operating it, they need to have a full train, and according to my calculations, they're going to need to charge about $500-600 each way. Like, at what point do you just fly? Why would you take 3 times longer than the flight and pay more than the flight to say you went there by rail? It doesn't make any sense. The rail's going to be fast. I mean, they say eventually you'll be able to get from Montreal to Toronto in about 3.5 hours by rail. That's great. But it's not that much longer to just take Via Rail. And I know it's not high speed, but it's already built and we're already paying for that anyway. Do we actually need this ALTO train? I think this is going to become an issue. I really do. I think Canadians are now going to start to realize, wait a second, this train that Trudeau promised right before he left and that Carney is continuing on with is going to cost us all a hell of a lot of money. It doesn't really serve a needed purpose, and it doesn't really serve that many Canadians.
U.S. Air Force General Gregory Guillot, who's the head of NORAD, was at a U.S. Senate committee hearing recently and said that 5th-generation fighter jets aren't needed to defend North America's borders and that they're better used attacking overseas targets. He said his preference was to see continued modernization of the 4th-generation fighters. And so my question is, how do you explain that buying a full F-35 fleet that Canada might not even need for continental defense is a good use of taxpayer dollars? And have you read the government's F-35 review report yet?
There's a lot in that.
Yeah.
The first is, we have to take a range of, the government will take a full range of considerations into making this important decision. The first and foremost is defending Canadians and what is best suited with other equipment, with our allies and capabilities to defend Canadians and all of Canada. Very much including the Arctic, and you've seen a series of announcements around those, including around Arctic airports and other aspects. So that's the starting point. And that observation, there are a range of views, but that observation, obviously an expert opinion, that observation is it's not inconsistent with some other views that have been expressed.
The Prime Minister really wants to get out of this F-35 purchase because he's worried about the optics of buying the F-35 from the Americans. He's also getting heavily pressured to go with this Swedish Gripen jet. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, I know the Prime Minister wants to get out of this because he thinks it's going to make him look bad with his target audience. However, irregardless of what that one general in America said, we need the best. Our armed forces need the best. And right now, the stealth F-35 fighter is the only stealth plane that'll do the job. And we need to have stealth capability. We just have to have it, especially operating in the Arctic. And the Gripen is not a stealth jet. Yes, it's cheaper, but no, it's not compatible with the F-35 fleet that the Americans have. It doesn't have stealth. It's not as powerful. The Gripen jet, I'm sure, is fine for some countries. But that's not what Canada needs. Buy the F-35s. Hurry up and get it done. Do not cancel this project again and pay another penalty to get out of it like we did when Justin Trudeau canceled them the first time and then had to revive the purchase. He was right the second time. Don't make this mistake again. Friends, I'm going home to watch the Artemis II blast off. Good luck and Godspeed to the astronauts on this mission, and congratulations to everyone at NASA. Tomorrow, whatever comes out of the president's address to the nation tonight, I will have for you and any other newsworthy items as we kick off the long Easter weekend. Catch you right back here in 24 hours. And as always, I'll leave you with the sounds of Pat James and The Whole Truth. Hey now.